The following story has been brought to you by StoriesToInspire.org.
I read this story in Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein's Sefer Aleinu L'Shabech, and he said the story that Avrech in the Kollel in Beitar Illit sent him this story. It was probably the person, the Bala Maseh, who this happened to. And the person said that there was a young boy who was very close specifically to his mother. He was okay with his father, but his mother, he was mamash aduk. He was so attached to her. And she got sick, and within literally a few weeks, boom, she went to Olam HaEmet. She was not here. Naturally, this child was crushed. He was 17 years old, very impressionable, and one thing led to another, and he started hanging around the wrong people he shouldn't have hang around, and eventually he had a very big downward spiral. Eventually, he threw off everything that he learned, everything. And one day, his father walks into his room, and he sees the son is packing his suitcase. He goes, "Son, what are you doing?" He says, "Dad, I'm going to India." "India? Why?" He says, "My friends are going. I'm going too." He says, "Are you taking your tefillin with you?" "Abba, I haven't worn tefillin, Rahman San, in a pretty long time. I don't pray. I don't. Shabbat, Rahman San, kasher." The father got so upset at his son that he's taking such a drastic step. He said, "I'm just letting you know right now, you walk out that door, and you go with your friends to India. You're basically not keeping Judaism anymore. I don't know what you're doing. You're not my son anymore if you walk out that door." And the son looked at his father, zipped up his suitcase, quietly picked up his suitcase, and walked out the door. 2 years later, this young man is hanging out with his friends. Seems like the person was an Israeli, and a lot of backpackers are out in Israel, from Israel to India. And a friend of his that he knew from years back bumped into me. He goes, "Hey, what's going on?" He says, "Listen, Habibi, I'm really, really sorry about your father." "My father? What are you talking about?" It's like, "Your father, yeah. You didn't hear? Yeah, what are you talking about?" It's like, "Your father passed away from a heart attack." "What?" He felt like a knife went right through him. "My father passed, I didn't even know. 6 months ago, I didn't even know. I'm so off the beaten path. Oh my gosh, what happened to me?" Immediately he got on a plane back to Eretz Yisrael, and he wanted to know what was going on. So he was so mivubal, he was so confused. He's like, "If I walk in there, they're going to start yelling at me. Who knows what? You know what? There's one place I know I could talk to my Father in heaven, and He's not going to talk back to me. He's not going to criticize nothing. I'll go to the Kotel Maravi, like the Yaqut tells us. The Kotel Maravi. The Shekhinah will never depart from the Kotel Maravi." So I decided I'm going to go to the Kotel. It happens to be that this young man, he was very tall, and it seems like his father was very tall too. And he went towards an area in the Kotel. He's praying and he's crying and he's just outpouring of emotion. He's not even praying. He's just talking to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Because you know what? There's some people that they have a custom that they take a piece of paper, they write a message, they fold it up, and they put it in the cracks. Because you know what? I'm going to do that too. Why not? Leave a little note. So he writes, "Hashem, please forgive me. I'm so sorry for what I did. Your beloved son, and I hope my father can forgive me as well." He's a tall person, so he sees up on a very high crevice is literally a note size that he could place in all the way in the corner, and it looks like it'll fit perfectly. So he puts his note in and shoves his finger in to make it go and stay. But he's very tall because he wants it to stay there. And unbeknownst to him, he didn't realize that when he was pushing, he pushed so hard that the paper and another paper that was there literally came falling out. Now remember, like we said, it was very high up. I remember when I read this story, I'm like, I know they do cleanings, but if it's super high up, it doesn't seem like they bother even reaching it. If there's nothing there, there's no reason for them to wash it or do whatever, any maintenance, they won't. So he pushed onto the note, and his note and another note fell down. He doesn't want to read it, right? He picks up the note, puts it back in, and again, both of them fall down together. Third time, picks it up, and again, he's like, "What's going on over here?" They were fit literally a few moments ago, and suddenly they keep getting kicked out. So he goes, "You know what? I was going to put out something else, but I figured maybe it's a sign from Hashem. Maybe Hashem wants me to read this other note." He picks up the other note, and his hands start trembling. In it says, "My dear Father in heaven, I have lost my son. He went away from the path of Torah and went to India. And on the date, it says, the day he left. That day that he left, you remember that day? I'm not sure exactly what it was, but he remembered that specific date. And he remembered that date. And the father obviously came to the kotel, prayed out his heart, put that note. He was also very tall. He put that note up there. And he says, Abba, I am begging of you, please watch over my son. He's still my son, even though he's making bad decisions. I understand he's in pain, and he has no mother to comfort him. And I'm in so much pain that he's even harming himself and hurting himself even more. Please look out for my son. And if you can, give him a message that I love him. And I always look out for him. And I forgive him, belev shalem. I forgive him with my full heart. The young man's reading this. He starts crying. My father really forgives me. He loves me. There was a chink in the metal. That the person turned around, went to yeshiva, turned around his whole life, became avrech kollel, beautiful family. When there's a chink in the metal, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Pitchu li petach, just open a small amount. Chudash al machat, just even the edge of a machat, the edge of a needle. I'll make it a huge, gigantic, I'll just make that little chink. You make the chink, I'll rip open the hole for you. Just make that first step. So many of us are afraid to make that first step.
Enjoyed this story? Come again. Bring a friend. StoriesToInspire.org